Our channel welcomes you all back to a dramatic story where dark secrets, betrayals and harsh decisions will bring the characters to the end of their inner turmoil. Each episode, each chapter opens a new door leading us into a world where trust is easily betrayed. Where the truth is hidden under a flashy shell, and where seemingly close relationships can fall apart in just a moment. Let's follow the next developments of life in this closed community, where every smile and look can hide a plot, and just a small mistake is enough to turn into an irreparable tragedy. That afternoon, the sun was leaning west, pale yellow light spilled onto the mottled road after the rain. The rows of trees stood still, the wet leaves gently swaying in the gentle wind. On the surface, the community looked like it always did, luxury homes gated off, security gates opening and closing with control, streets spotless with no litter. But right in the center of that seemingly perfect scene, a tragedy was waiting to reveal its dark side. The screech of tires shattered the silence. Randy's car hurtled around the corner, the rear wheels scraping the curb, causing the car to tilt. A sharp sound of metal hitting steel, followed by the terrifying sound of the car crashing headfirst into the barrier. The car twisted, glass shattered like a shower of glass. White smoke billowed into the air, mingling with the endless squeal of the horn. Doug was the first to arrive. He had no time to think, his legs were running in desperation. But as he got closer, something made him stop. His eyes were fixed on the undercarriage, where the brakes had been cut cleanly, not at all like a typical accident. A cold feeling spread through him, every muscle in his body tensed. This was not an accident. This was a conspiracy. Someone wanted Randy dead. Anger flared in Doug, but at the same time, he was stunned. Why Randy? Who had enough hatred, enough heartlessness to do this? Only one name flashed through his mind, Marcel. Every memory of the tension between Marcel and Randy rushed back like a knife cutting deep into his mind. Marcel had been oppressed, humiliated, deprived of opportunities by Randy himself. The motive was clear enough. But had Marcel really crossed this line? Doug turned away, but his hands clenched so tightly that blood seeped between his fingers. A fierce struggle arose within him, his reason warned him that there was no evidence, while his intuition screamed at Marcel. From that moment on, Doug knew his life would no longer be peaceful. He had been pushed into a haunting spiral from which he could not escape. Randy lay motionless in the hospital, his body attached to machines, his breath as weak as a fragile thread about to break. Every time Doug stood and watched, a storm of emotions arose within him. The helplessness made him painful, and the anger drove him almost insane. He felt as if someone was standing in the dark, laughing at this pain. And in his haunted imagination, that person had Marcel's face. Meanwhile, Marcel still appeared in the community as if nothing had happened. He still wore neat suits, still smiled politely, still raised a glass of wine at parties. But deep in his eyes, there was an elusive glint of darkness that occasionally flashed. One could see the worry, or maybe it was just an illusion that Doug had imposed on him. Marcel knew that all eyes were on him, but he pretended not to be bothered. The truth was that Marcel was not calm. Every night he was haunted by the image of the car losing control, the loud crash, and the moment when white smoke filled the sky. He knew he had reason to hate Randy, but he had never thought of ending his life. Yet now, the entire community, especially Doug, believed that he was the culprit. The pressure was suffocating. There were moments when Marcel doubted himself, had his long-standing desire and hatred inadvertently paved the way for someone else to commit a cruel act? Doug was increasingly sleepless. He began to search for security cameras, ask security guards, and even monitor Marcel's every move. He recorded every little detail, every abnormality. But the more he searched, the more he realized there was no concrete evidence. Marcel was smart, careful, and if he was involved, he would have erased all traces. The only thing Doug clung to was his strong intuition. This obsession turned Doug into a different person. He became gruff, cold, and distant. In the eyes of everyone, Doug was destroying himself. But inside him, the fire of justice burned brightly, mingling with the desire for revenge. He could no longer clearly distinguish between what was real and what was just a fantasy. For Doug, there was only one person behind this tragedy, and that person was Marcel. Marcel clearly felt the suspicious eyes following him. He felt himself being suffocated in an invisible space, as if he could be punished at any moment. His dreams turned into nightmares, where he saw Randy drowning in blood, and Doug rushing towards him with hateful eyes. Marcel told himself he was innocent, but the conflict in his mind grew more and more intense. Guilt does not need proof. Just the thought is enough to turn a person into a suspect. As time passed, tension in the community increased. The usually noisy parties were now filled with caution. All eyes were searching for clues. Outside, the houses were still luxurious, but inside, the atmosphere was thick, ready to explode. Doug and Marcel were like two opposite poles of magnets, drawn closer and closer, waiting for the moment to confront each other. One night, Doug stood in front of Marcel's house, his shadow stretched out in the moonlight. In his hand was a file containing notes, pictures, deductions, all pointing to one person. His heart was beating fast, sweat was beading on his forehead, but his eyes were steadfast. For Doug, justice had become an obsession. And that obsession could only be released by exposing Marcel. Marcel, inside the house, was not sleeping either. He felt a presence out there, like a predator lurking. His heart was pounding, a series of questions swirling in his head. Can he escape this cycle of suspicion? Will the truth ever be revealed? Or will he be the one pushed into a dead end, guilty or not? Two people, two fates, two minds pushed to the wall by a single event. Randy, motionless on his hospital bed, becomes the focus of hatred, obsession, and the specter of guilt. Doug is consumed by the desire to find the truth, Marcel is tortured by self-doubt. The two have entered a relentless battle, where justice and revenge, truth and falsehood, guilt and injustice merge into a dark storm. In the gated community, where everything is covered by glitter and order, no one knows that peace is just an illusion. The storm is approaching, and when it explodes, no one can escape the destructive spiral. Please follow and subscribe to our channel to continue accompanying the surprising and dramatic developments in the next chapters.